course. And of course, today we also connect to the Facebook Live as well as to the Zoom. Now, individual who join in from Facebook Live throughout the so-called 2-hour session, you can post your question in comments column. Back end, my colleagues will provide the reply. And those who join in via the Zoom, please feel free to post your question into the chat or Q&A at appropriate time. Definitely would like to provide you I think Jay will provide you the reply. But of course, we strongly urge all of you here be more proactive to be involved in this 2-hour session, make it more interactive, which I think Jay will always do that, to make sure all of you here to have a very interactive session throughout this 2-hour session, right? So please stay tuned to the end of the session, right? So I'll pass the mic over to Jay. Jay, please.
Yes. Thank you, Andy, for introduction. A very good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Tuesday evening, probably over your dinner time. And I'm very thankful that every time when I get to speak, I get to help people around, not just my clients around, but also to help people around to understand how to really be successful in investing in the stock market. And being in Phillip Capital for more than 16 years, I definitely got a lot of opportunity to share my personal experience in the market, not just a personal experience, but also expert knowledge on certain topics or certain events that have happened in the market. But however, sad to say, it's very hard for me to really pass down all my knowledge or whatever experience since even from a young age till now, all the experience with stock market in just short 1 hour, 2-hour session. So the best way is to really formulate a simpler format, a structural format to help every individual to be well-trained and to know how to make their investment work for them. And like the course title that I created, Making Investment Name, you see that the course name is to help every individual to make sure the investment work for them, not the other way around. Why? Because very often I have met a lot of people, speak to a lot of people, they very often feel very anxious and also very concerned about their own investment, especially recently. You see, for the past 2-3 weeks, the market has been dropping very strongly. A lot of them get very jittery about it. And I noticed that most of the time they spend a lot of time looking at stock market, looking at all their positions they have. They are very concerned about having losses, and they spend a lot of time watching such movements. And this is what I mean by you are working for the investment, meaning you spend so much time on it, and whether you get a return out of it, it is not necessary actually. So in fact, in Making Investment course, what I'll try to help everybody to understand is that our objective is always to let the investment work for us, not to be anxious over it. And that's where behavioral finance came in, like what Andy has shared earlier on. I'm very thankful that IBF has accredited my course, Making Investment course. Why? Because when IBF accredited course, it marks that whatever the trainer is teaching or training, it's not just about their own personal experience, but it's also a level of professionalism, meaning whatever I taught in Making Investment course is not just practiced by me alone, but it's also practiced by many practitioners or professionals in the market itself. So having this IBF accreditation not only give me opportunity to train you guys from the market, but also give me a lot of opportunity to train professionals like within Phillip Capital itself. I train a large group of financial practitioners, from staff to trading representative to financial advisors, and even reach out to IPP financial advisors to train a group of financial advisors. So that is the extent of IBF. IBF stands for Institution of Banking and Finance. So having this accreditation, it also gives us opportunity for incentive, subsidies, like what Andy has shared earlier on. At the end of the session, I'm going to share more into detail how you can benefit from such subsidies. Okay, so this is about an introduction for today, but let me start off with very simple disclaimer and limitation. First of all, like today's topic, thriving industry in Singapore, I will be talking a lot of past performance numbers to show you a pattern and to help you to understand what are the various industries in Singapore that are thriving. Once we understand, then we can make prudent investment decision. However, please do take note that today's session is not a session to tell you what to buy or sell, but is to help you to understand the whole Singapore economic situation, the whole Singapore industries, what are the industries that help the whole Singapore economy to function. And also, numbers are going to be used, and these numbers does not mean that it will be very predictive in nature. So please do consider your own personal risk assessment before you want to make any investment decision itself. Lastly, I pride myself as an investor in the market, meaning at all times, I will surely have invested position in the market. So today's session is like what I shared earlier on. It's not a session for me to pick out specific short stocks for you to invest or not. And of course, I also talk about certain companies that are listed that are within the industry. So this does not constitute an advice to buy or sell, but it's an opinion that you can take into consideration. And I will not be encouraging people to speculate the market, but to look at the long-term perspective of various thriving industry itself. Okay, so let's start off with today's session. Now, to start off with today's session, it's also a session where I am thinking about the month of August. What are the things that I want to share with everyone? What are the things that I would want to teach? And very often in the month of August is where our National Day happens. We had just went through our National Day 2-3 weeks ago. And at every National Day, it's always a parade where we'll start to showcase about how Singapore is born, how Singapore is founded, how Singapore has went through different stages of progression to progress to a country that we are right now in. So I want to start off today's session to help you to understand how much has Singapore developed over time. Why do we need to know how much Singapore has developed over time? The reason is very simple. If we know how Singapore has built its foundation, then we will know what are the foundational industry that is in Singapore that have lasted until right now. And if we know what industry has been lasted until right now, this is going to be a core foundation or the core industry that Singapore government or the way Singapore will run will continue to be like. And therefore, if I have invested position in such industry, I wouldn't be afraid of holding such investments within the industry for a much longer term. And if you are able to hold for a longer term, and that's when over time, when the industry grow, when the industry profits, we being a shareholder will also be part of the profit in the industry itself. So I also will share about how we as the investors can also contribute to the Singapore economy and how we can help Singapore economy to become a better place for every one of us living in Singapore itself. So you see, this is how I have highlighted and how I'm going to develop the whole talk today. It's all about how to identify thriving industry in Singapore. So let's start off with a bit of history, how Singapore economy has developed over time. First of all, majority of Singaporeans, I would say 100% of Singaporeans, will know that Singapore started off as a state or a place called Temasek, which is known as a small fishing village. Now, why I want to highlight this small fishing village history in the first place? Because when I understand the small fishing village kind of history, you know that Singapore is always related to ship, always related to water. Anything that deals with the sea or the water, that's where the root and the foundation of Singapore economy is present. And 58 years, and when Singapore has a name, Singapore is where our country was formed, okay, in 1918, where Singapore started to be developed by Mr. Sir Stamford Raffles, where he has eyeball or earmarked that Singapore is a very good has a very good geographical location in the Asia region. So he has planned to develop Singapore into a very busy harbor. Why? Because this will be able to help the Western country, meaning the European countries, to be linked up with the Asian country. Linked up in what sense? Linked up in the sense of doing trading. So Singapore is one of the busiest port or the busiest harbor in history, even until now, to date. Why? Because of its great geographical location. So that's how Singapore has been developed. So from a small fishing village, it has built up and developed into a busy harbor. When you talk about harbor, that's where shipping business can start to thrive. Shipping business start to become more and more ships that will pass through here. And not only that, why there are ships is because of trades. Mr. Sir Stamford Raffles has made Singapore known as a trading hub where they will be free from tax when a trade is done. So not just about shipping business that Singapore industry in those days has been formed up, but another industry that has been formed up is always trade-related business. For example, the warehouses that we can see in Clarke Quay, Boat Quay area, these are where, like in the picture, this is a picture of the Boat Quay. And this is where warehouses are being formed, and this is where that's where trade are being done by various merchants from the Eastern countries and also the Asian country. So trade-related business is always the core for Singapore. But over time, when Singapore become part of Malaysia and then gained independence 58 years ago, Singapore, led by our founding father, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, after independence, to be developed into a first world country. And the development of first world country really has had a lot of changes over time. From just a small fishing village being developed into a busy harbor, and then being developed into a first world country, there are a lot of creation, okay? A lot of reconstruction or restructuring of the Singapore economy over time to be where we are right now. So you see the basic context, the basic foundation of Singapore economy is always about shipping, it's about trading. It's always starting off with these two areas. That would be the bare bones of Singapore economy. But to be a first world country is not just bare bone shipping and also trade related industry, but there are a lot of other industry that has been developed over these 58 years in order to become the first world country, being well known throughout the whole world itself. So what I'm going to do now is to share with you over the 58 years, okay, excluding this year to be exact, how Singapore economy has developed since 1965, okay, 57 years worth of history. Over here, what you see is the GDP numbers and also the growth rate year by year, the chart of GDP numbers and also growth rate of Singapore over these 57 years. The blue color bar signifies the GDP. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. It is a measurement of how much goods and services a country produces as a whole. Why GDP is important? The larger the GDP numbers, it means that the higher the productivity the level the country is, and if the country is productive, it also means that citizens within the country will also be contributing as production. When they contributed as production, they will also receive a reward as a salary. So meaning if the GDP figures increase more or start to grow more, individuals within the country, individuals to businesses within the country will also grow at the same time. So it is important to continue to grow, and many of us, we want to get richer and richer over time. So therefore, looking at the GDP numbers, it can be a good reference or a good guideline for us to see what's the rate of growth within the country itself. So there are a relationship. So the blue color line is signifying the growth rate of Singapore, how fast the economy will grow year by year, okay, year to year comparison. And as you can see, most of the time, the growth rate of Singapore are on the positive side. And there are some particular years that Singapore is not growing, but in fact, it's actually contracting, meaning it's in a decline economic state. But one general look, you see over these 57 years from 1965 to 2022, you see generally there's only one direction, and the direction is upwards, meaning the economy continue to grow for the 50 over years. And when you see economy is growing over 50 over years, this can give us confidence that over time, we should be getting richer and richer over time, as long as we are working, being productive, and or we are being invested in the market itself. So that's the first conclusion that we can draw by looking at these numbers and the growth rate. But upon that, what I can also help you to understand is that I have started to understand that actually you realize that the growth rate over time, certain period, the growth rate tends to be on the higher side. Certain period, the growth rate is not very good. And in fact, if you look at the latest growth numbers, it's very, very volatile. It can go down very deeply. It can also go up very, very quickly. So from here, I can derive that there are different time periods or different time frame within the market that we can identify how things have transformed. So let me share my personal opinion of how things have transformed over these 57 years. Between 1965 to 1985 period, I call this period the golden era period, where Singapore is new, is very, very young, infancy stage, where our founding father, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, has started to make Singapore independent and also introduce a lot of measures to change the country, to govern the country itself. And during this short 20 years, if you look at the growth number, it is at a high growth rate of an average of 15%. What I can remember over these years, or based on stories or what I heard from my grandparents, during this time, what Singapore is encountering a big change of lifestyle. And during this period, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, he has also implemented a lot of policies, including policies like changing our national language from Bahasa Melayu, change to English. And even those Chinese schools are starting to be abolished and to introduce English. Why? Because English turns out to be an international language that every countries are using. That's one. Another is about development of the land in Singapore. Start to focus a lot of infrastructure building, a lot of road building, construction, and even starting to implement the policies of the early days of HDB buildings. Why? This is to help every single citizen to have a better housing, better infrastructure or transport, and to make Singapore not only attractive to citizens in Singapore, residents in Singapore, but also to make attractive to foreign countries' investor. So during this golden age, what happened is that one of the key turning point in Singapore economy is the attraction of foreign investors into Singapore. So many foreign investors are coming into Singapore to set up factories. I even heard that Singapore used to be a textile manufacturing country where a lot of clothing are being made in Singapore. And also at the late part of the golden age in the 70s to 80s, where computing power are being introduced, where computers are being invented, Singapore become one of the manufacturer of electronic components, meaning the transistor, the IC chip, and so on and so forth. And when I look back, when I look into my first personal computer and old personal computer, when I look into my personal computer, I open up, I realize that, hey, there are a lot of IC chips that are being manufactured, made in Singapore. And one of the affirmation that Singapore has been one of the major player in manufacturing in terms of electronic is my mother. I asked her, so when you are young, what are you working? Where are you working? And my mother told me, oh, I used to be a factory worker in Philips. Okay, not Philips Securities, but Philips, where they do the light bulbs, they do television and stuff until nowadays is still doing. So in the past, my mom is one of factory worker to help to assemble, okay, not just television, but also refrigerators and so on and so forth. There are a lot of such things that are happening during this golden era period. Okay, so if some of you have went through the era or are in the era, please respond to me in the Q&A. Say, hey Jay, I'm actually one of them. I went through the period of the golden era. I know how it feels like during that period. So that is the start of the new birth of Singapore economy. I called it the golden era. But after 1985 onwards, like what I shared earlier on, when Mr. Lee started to attract more industrialization, start to attract more foreign investor into the country, Singapore start to develop further in terms of industrialization. So not just about electronic manufacturing. As the economy gets stronger, the government start to implement and introduce new means to increase the economic activity in Singapore. So one of the key development during the industrialization age during 1985 to 2010 is the introduction of the chemical engineering, meaning our Jurong Island was developed during that period, and this Jurong Island development has helped. Why they want to develop Jurong Island is because a lot of oil refinery are being done overseas, and not many countries in Asia countries are able to access such oil refinery, meaning to transport crude oil and then refine oil into different petroleum products is very expensive to import. So therefore, Singapore started off these chemical processing plants, okay, to help to process crude oil so as to help to supply to the rest of the world. So why I want to highlight this is because this will help you to understand that Singapore is also another industry Singapore had developed before is actually the development of chemical engineering. So you will see that actually there are a lot of chemical processing plant in Jurong Island, and not just chemical processing plant in Jurong Island, but there are also subsectors within chemical processing. And you will see that there are actually some listed company that are focused in dealing with chemical refining and so on and so forth. So chemical related industry is also one of the manufacturing sector that have branched out, not just electronic manufacturing, but also a chemical manufacturing sector that have branched out to help to boost the whole industrialization age of Singapore. So this industrialization age for Singapore lasted from 1986 until 2010, where the growth rate, as the economy get bigger, the growth get harder and harder, and that's where it grew around 8.86% per annum. But after year 2010, when it comes to a new era, after year 2010, this is what I call the modern age, where at late year 2000 onwards, Singapore start to look into another direction. Instead of relying on industrialization, instead of relying on manufacturing, there is one huge problem that the government has faced. The huge problem is about population size. It's about having a lot of people to you need a lot of people to join in the manufacturing in order to produce certain goods and services. So with the limited land space and the limited size of Singapore itself, there's a limit in the amount of manpower Singapore itself can offer. So the next best alternative is to to focus towards the service industry. And that's where tourism has started to become another new branch within Singapore to help Singaporeans to get more jobs. And that's where RWS are being introduced. That's where marina-based sands are being introduced into Singapore economy itself. So that's where a lot of focus, not just from industrialization, has been focused on. A lot of focus are being shifted towards tourism related industry. So that's how over time Singapore economy developed. You see, it's a process. It's time how Singapore get better and better. However, when you look at the modern age, you see that when the modern age comes, the growth of our GDP numbers get harder and harder, meaning the growth rate get lesser and lesser, 5.83. But please do take note that 5.83 does not indicate that it's the best comparison with the past. Why? Because it's calculated since 2011 until 2022, which is so only 10 years worth. So we can have another 10 years worth, more worth of data, then we'll be able to see whether Singapore really has maintained a good level of growth rate over time. Okay, so that's a bit of the development of Singapore history, also a bit of sharing of what are the key industry. As a quick summary is that number one, shipping, trade-related industry are always the foundation and core of Singapore, and it has always been existing. But as time goes by, manufacturing industry, in particularly the electronic manufacturing and also in particularly the chemical processing manufacturing, they are still around. But they are limited due to the due to the land space constraint of Singapore. And now moving forward, Singapore in a modern age has started to transform, where tourism seems to be playing a very big part in the whole economic growth and progression. So these are various industries which I shared as a summary, and for you to keep in mind, because later on I'm going to share more deeper into it. Okay, so now with all these different kind of industry that is being formed and all these numbers you have seen over time how it has transformed, I'm going to share with you more deeper. Okay, not just about GDP, but also to share with you how Singapore government or the Ministry of Trade Industry see the overall Singapore economic situation and how they break down. The Ministry of Trade Industry break down Singapore economy into two big portions: the goods producing industry and the service producing industry. As you can see in the blue color line, the blue color line is the goods producing industry, and the orange color line is the service producing industry. And if you look over the time span over these 57 years, what you will notice is that Singapore always thrive based on service producing industry. Okay, but there is some years where the goods producing industry start to increase. Okay, so generally service related industry are the main core of Singapore economy itself. Okay, so not really manufacturing or goods producing industry. So what constitute a service producing industries? Then Ministry of Trade Industry actually break down further into these 7 subsectors. Okay, 7 industry. Orange color line represent the wholesale and retail trade. And you observe the wholesale and retail trade, they are usually the top contributors. Okay, then the gray color line, the second gray color line is the transport and storage. Orange color line is accommodation. Transport and storage stands for like air freights, shipping, and all the warehouses. These are also one of the core industry that I shared earlier on in Singapore. It's all related to trade itself. And then another one that is related more towards tourism is actually accommodation as food services. Accommodation means hotels and so on and so forth. Another industry that was formed is the information and communication, which is the blue color line. It signifies the communication like our telcos, in our information sector, on data sectors and so on and so forth. Another sector that I didn't really talk about just now is the finance and insurance sector, which is actually very important sector to help the retail, the wholesale or the trading business that is happening in the shipping industry. Okay, so finance and insurance is also another core industry, an important industry in Singapore itself. That's green color line. And as for the real estate, professional services, administrative support, these are actually more towards the properties, okay, properties sector in Singapore. And other services related are demarcated in brown color line. Okay, so once we understand what are the different line representing, I want to spend some time to help you all to look through over time how all these different industry has transformed. Okay, so ever since 1985, okay, until the 1985, although the lines are not very clear here, but you will see that the dominating period is actually the wholesale and retail trade. We have been always, they are always the main contributor. So that's where things are always there. And you will notice that after 1985, that means 1986 onwards until year 2010, year 2010, that's where the figures or numbers start to deviate a lot, okay? But generally, the wholesale and retail trade industry are still the top thriving industry during that period. And even so, if you look until this modern age, 2010 onwards, okay, 2010 onwards, you'll see that the wholesale and retail trade are always the highest. And in fact, if you look at the recent numbers, you will see the wholesale and retail trade has increased the most, has increased in terms of absolute numbers the most. And if you look at the recent numbers, what used to be one of the key contributor, okay, during the year 2000 onwards, you see the real estate sector are always been doing well. But in year 2019, after the COVID-19 crisis, you'll see the real estate sector actually didn't perform well because there's lesser transaction of real estate. But over time, it still managed to do well. Okay. But the second best industry right now that is best performing industry that is contributing to the whole economy is the finance and insurance sector. Okay, you see the finance and insurance sector now is the second biggest contributor. And in fact, even with COVID-19 coming in, okay, let me show you the COVID-19 period. Even when COVID-19 come in during the period of circuit breaker, the finance and insurance sector is the only sector that is not really big. It's not the only sector. It's one of the sector that did not really get affected. Okay, did not really get affected. That's another observation. So this means that if I want to be very confident on which sector, even when it comes to situations like COVID-19 kind of situation, will not be affected, it's actually the finance and insurance sector. Okay. Another sector that has been constantly thriving very gradually and also not affected by the COVID-19 situation is this light blue color line. This is the information and communication. You see that it's actually starting to grow. It's starting to get better and better. And in fact, it's starting to catch up with a lot of other industries itself. That's something interesting to know also. And after COVID, when the borders of Singapore are open, you'll see the transportation and storage sector suddenly spiked up a lot. Okay, this spike is really due to the opening of borders. And this spike up has contributed to also the retail trade and wholesale and retail trade. Why? Because this has opened up doors for tourism to come in and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are some observations that I shared, but the key observation is this. What I can learn from here is this. The finance and insurance sector are a sector that are more consistent even in times of pandemic. They managed to grow very well, and they are the second best, main contributors of the Singapore economic growth itself. The second one that is constantly growing over time is actually the information and communication sector. Okay, so accommodation and food and service sector is ranked at the last. It's not doing as well. So any tourism related, a lot of people think the tourism related the hotel must be doing very well. In fact, they are not growing as fast as the rest of other industry, but it's quite clear cut that I would rather invest my money towards other service oriented company that are more related to wholesale, retail, finance and insurance, or even looking towards the information and communication. Okay, so these are the three main service producing industry that we can look towards to build our portfolio upon. Okay, next information I want to share is the goods producing industry. Although they don't contribute the most in terms of the overall economic numbers in Singapore, but it's also important to know how the significance of which sector within the goods producing industry contribute to the economy. As you can see, the chart over here is very clear cut that the goods producing industry, Ministry of Trade industry, only classified into three industries itself: manufacturing, orange color line; construction, gray color line; and also the utilities, which is the yellow color line. Okay, so manufacturing sectors, as you can see, since 1965 onwards, manufacturing sector has always been doing well. The big boom period is during the 1980s, 1985 onwards, where I call it the industrialization age. Okay, you see 1985 onwards to year 2010, the manufacturing growth, manufacturing industry are the one that has grown the most. And in fact, the overall goods producing industry, you see the line of the dotted line are pretty similar to the manufacturing numbers. So we just need to look at the manufacturing numbers to be able to see how it has contributed to how you can identify in future how it's going to contribute to the economy itself. And you see the manufacturing sector, even during COVID-19 situation, it got quite a fair bit of hit, okay, during the COVID-19 situation. However, after the circuit breaker has been lifted off, border has been opened, you see the manufacturing numbers have also grown very strongly. Okay, so manufacturing can be also one sector that we can look at, but to take note that it does not contribute most in Singapore economy. Is comparable to the service producing industry, some of the subsector itself. Okay. So there's a bit of overview to help you see the full picture of Singapore economy performance for the past 57 years. And this will give you a very clear idea of what are the main core industry that we can look at. First, you'll know that the core is the wholesale and retail trade. It's definitely been around since day one, since Mr. Sir Stamford Raffles has built Singapore to be like. And transportation and storage are the main basic core sector. But the supporting sectors that are being developed over time is the manufacturing sector, then followed by, when you come to modern age, the financial and insurance sector, together with the tourism related sector has come in only recently. Okay, so information and communication is also something that we also to consider going forward, as it's actually starting to expand and starting to grow more and more. It can be one of the leading producers okay, GDP produces in Singapore economy itself. Okay, so enough of history, enough of knowing what to look back, enough of understanding the foundation of Singapore. But what I want to do next is this. I want to pause here for a short moment, and I want everyone to think about what is your vision for Singapore. Because if we understand what is your vision, if everybody has the same vision of Singapore, then we will be able to identify not only the past thriving industry, but we will be able to identify what is the thriving industry likely to happen in the future. So I would like everyone to share with me, okay, or share with everyone through the Q&A, using the Q&A button in this Zoom meeting, to type in what you hope Singapore to turn out to be in the future. What's your vision for Singapore? Okay, so I'll give you some time to type while I get a quick water break for myself. Okay, so what's your vision for Singapore? Please type inside the Q&A and then send it to me so that we can share your opinion. Okay, no right or wrong, but it's just some directions that you hope Singapore will turn out to be. Like for me personally, I do hope that Singapore will continue, okay, not just turn out, will continue to have the same vision to be a country where other countries will look upon to come to Singapore to not just to trade, okay, being a good middleman between trade, but also to be a country where we can also lead and guide as a role model for other countries, especially within Southeast Asia or even within Asia, to see that how the country can improve the life of every individual. Okay, individual in a sense of not just the seniors, because the whole world are coming to an age where there are more and more seniors in the workforce, but also about how to encourage people who are young, okay, people who are younger, to be able to work for the vision for the country, not just to satisfy their own personal needs, but also to have a vision to help one another to improve and to grow to be a better person over time. That's my vision. This is what I hope for. And because of this vision, that's why I pride myself to want to train. I want to share information. I want to share knowledge, not just with people that know me, but also to share the knowledge with people who don't know about investment and don't know about how economy works and so on and so forth. It's important to share this information because this will help the new generation to be able to know, to build upon, and also to not build upon not just to survive, but also to build upon to elevate their life in the future. That is my vision. So it's not all about making money. A lot of people say, yeah, invest in stock market is to make money and so forth. Yes, I do agree. But ultimately, when you make money as every individual, what do we want to do with money? Do we want to earn it for do we want to spend it for our own self-satisfaction, or do we want to spend it to help the people who are really in need? So that's my personal vision. Okay. So no response from the crowd. Okay. Oh, I have someone responding. Okay. Luna said, have self-sustaining growth like food, water, vegetable, meat, energy, traffic, land, waste management. Yeah. For basic survival, with less and less depending on resources from outside country. Very good idea. That's something I never thought about. Because Singapore, we are always reliant on overseas country. Like for example, COVID-19 situation will happen, everybody are afraid that they will not be able to receive our staples to eat. And the government continue to assure the citizen as much as possible. Yes, that's something that is very important. It's not just about our own self, how we live better, but it's also about very bare basic survival to have enough food, self-reliance. Okay, so yes, that's something that we can think about. Okay, thank you for contribution. There is a lot of vision that is around in the market. People are talking about. Okay, even if you listen to today's presidency election speech nomination day, all these are the various, what is being spoken of is a various vision of all the potential president candidates. Okay, not president, potential president. So these are vision. We need to have this vision so that we can work towards a vision to decide what kind of industry to invest in or what kind of stocks to invest in. So I want to share a person's vision. And this person's vision is called, Ravi Menon. Who's Ravi Menon? Not many people know him, but those within the finance industry will know him. Mr. Ravi Menon is managing director of the MAS. Okay, so maybe a few years later, Mr. Ravi Menon also can go and nominate himself to be eligible for president. Maybe. Why? Because he govern, okay, he direct the MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore. Okay, so he also previously a permanent secretary in MTI, Ministry of Trade Industry, and also a deputy secretary at Ministry of Finance. So just like our president candidate, Mr. Tharman, also about the same track record. Okay, about the same track record. So this is Mr. Ravi Menon. Now, why specifically I want to highlight him? Okay, highlight him in this talk is because in year 2015, he has a conference called the Singapore Economic Review Conference on 5th August 2015, a few days before National Day. He shared with the public addressing the topic called An Economic History of Singapore from 1965 to 2065. Like what I shared just now is 1965 to year 2022. I talk about past. What I can share is observation from past. But what interests me is that this Mr. Ravi Menon, he has talked about up till year 2065. And for a person who has worked in NTI, MOF, and also working in MAS, there must be a specific vision or direction the overall government has that has been planned out or laid out towards a certain time frame, which I have no fact, but many of us, we know that Singapore government are always very, very forward-looking. A lot of plans has been planned way, way, way ahead. So very seldom we have a sudden change in plan. So this have given us a lot of certainty and assurance where the country will be going in future. So in the same manner, I find this article, which you see there's a link over here, very, very intriguing to me, and it's going to help me to identify not just the past, but also the present of where the economy will be going in Singapore. Okay, so I will share this link with everyone. Okay, in the chat. Okay, you can click on the link if you want to read for yourself. Please do go and read for yourself. Okay, but today I'm not going to go through the article, but what I want to do is that I'm going to share bits and pieces or the things that I gathered to as a summary for you to understand what's perspective or where Mr. Ravi vision is going towards. Okay, so a quick overview of Mr. Ravi's vision that he talked in this conference is that he break down his vision into three portions: the present, the past, the present, and the future. So in the past, he has break down into 5 different phases. Okay, in the past, he has break down in 1965 to 1984. We call it the phase 1, export-led industrialization. Then in 1985 to 2010, that's where he called it the liberalization and rise of modern services. Later, I'll share deeper into it. And 2011 to 2025, which is the present until slightly more in the future, he talked about demographic slowdown, economic restructuring. Then what is really, really intriguing is the future. The future will break down into two other phases. First one, phase 4, 2026 to 2040, talking about regional integration and technology transformation. Okay. And then 2040 to 2065 is where we talk about climate change mitigation and adaptation. So this is the general big structure of his conference that day. So very quickly, I talk about the phase 1. Okay, export-led industrialization, a bit of repeat what I shared early on. But what Mr. Ravi Menon has shared that in early years, 1965 to 1984, Singapore thrived in a manner of being focusing on exporting. Okay, export-led. And the export-led are basically coming from the goods producing industry. That means Singapore has been exporting manufacturing goods and then exporting to other countries. That's why Singapore goods producing industry enjoy a total of 1,900+% growth. And service producing industry did not lag behind because Singapore is always known since day one to be a service producing country. Okay, but the main growth comes from the goods producing industry. So we see that goods producing industry has grown over the time period of 20 years, 17.3%. But while the service producing industry lag behind 14%, but they are growing at a double-digit kind of growth, which is really, really very strong. Okay, so that's the export-led kind of industrialization. And a bit more specific about export-led industrialization means that the goods producing industry, you'll see what I shared earlier on, that the manufacturing sector is the one that enjoy very strong growth, okay, ever since 1970s onwards, okay, 1970s to 1985. That's where I shared earlier on where Mr. Lee Kuan Yew start to implement and encourage foreign investors to come to Singapore to set up factories and so on and so forth. So when you come to set up factories, when more countries are being attracted to build or to construct in Singapore, so in 1980s onwards, you'll see a big spike in the construction sector, meaning Singapore really start to develop. More roads are being developed. I believe that is the time period where Toa Payoh, after Queenstown period, Tiong Bahru Queenstown period, where Toa Payoh, Ang Mo Kio region are being built up in terms of HDB. Okay, so construction are getting thriving. When more buildings are being constructed means that the citizens are more well off to be able to buy their own houses and so on and so forth. So this is where the big turning point of Singapore happened after 1980s based on the goods producing. Okay, so the main economic driver come from the manufacturing sector, mainly the electronics, petrochemicals, or even electronic components or precision engineering start to develop during that point in time. Okay, while the construction sector is supporting the growth of this export-led industrialization. And then when it comes to phase 2, 1985 to 2010, okay, the numbers start to change a bit. The growth, the main contributor actually start to come towards the service producing industry, where I shared earlier on, where I start to develop in terms of the tourism industry. Okay, and that's where you see that the service producing industry is now leading in terms of the growth rate in Singapore itself. Okay, but it's, of course, the growth is lesser to the phase 1 because the phase 1 is the golden era. But when it comes to, as the economy grow bigger, the growth, the rate of return also get more and more limited. So looking at the service producing industry in phase 2, you will see that the main contributor in service producing industry comes after year 2002. okay, where there's a huge spike in wholesale and retail trade, where Singapore managed to promote itself to be a country very well, where we got our first world airport, and also promoting in terms of the integrated resort, okay, like RWS, and also Marina Bay Sands, where it encouraged more tourism to happen in Singapore. Another huge spike, you will see the huge spike in terms of the accommodation and food services. That's where in year 2003, 2004 onward, all these integrated resorts has helped to increase the growth of Singapore service producing industry. Okay, but one very constant growth you will see over time, okay, is the finance and insurance. Okay, it usually stays either the top or the second line. Okay, and over the phase 2, you will see it has been staying at the third level. Okay, the third ranking. Okay, so the main economic growth driver in phase 2 is actually the real estate. Information and communication. You see that it has been very, very consistent to grow. In fact, it has grown 1,000 plus times. Okay, with an average of 10.52%. So that's where Singapore start to develop internet connectivity in terms of information communication. Okay, our internet system become one of the world-class level, and so on and so forth. Okay, so mainly finance services, business services, and also IT services. This kind of industry actually start to develop very well during this 1985 to 2010 period. But more importantly, it's more towards what is present right now, what is currently happened. In 2011, 2025, we are now at 2023, we are now within this period called the demographic slowdown and economic restructuring. Now, a bit of background to help you to understand what do you mean by demographic slowdown. Okay, Mr. Ravi, remember he wrote this, he talked about this in the conference in 2015. During that time period, many people are concerned about aging population within not within the country. Okay, it's not just Singapore, but also multiple countries in the whole world itself. So there is a problem with population sizing over time. And as people start to age, the demographic people who are able to work will get lesser and lesser. So this is what it means by demographic slowdown that is starting to happen between the period 2011 to 2025. In order to compensate for lesser manpower, okay, or working force, in other words, working force, the best way to compensate can be two ways. Either Singapore encourage more foreigners to come to Singapore to work, which happened during the early 2011 onwards, or they start to increase the usage of robotics, in order to reduce the need for more human resources. Okay, so this is what I mean by economic restructuring, meaning companies have to evolve and transform to rely lesser on human resources, human power, but to transform towards relying more on intellectual properties like robotics, okay, to reduce or change the manufacturing process to be a shorter process or less human intensive process. So this is what it means by economic restructuring. It means what Mr. Ravi expected, that when economy is slowed down, when there is a restructuring, economic numbers is going to be affected and impacted, and also expected to have more uncertainty and more volatility in terms of results. Okay, so as you can see based on the graph that are shown over here, you will see naturally the growth rate over this up till 2022, the growth rate of both the goods producing and service producing are not very sharp. Okay, meaning they are growing very gradually. So I believe this is also a mark of showing that the economy is slowing down. okay, is slowing down. The growth is not as robust as what had happened in phase 1 and phase 2, but it's starting to show some sign of slowing down. Okay. So during this period, you see the goods producing industry. At first, it started off with some slowdown until 2018. Okay. And 2019 onwards to 2021, 22, you know that this is a COVID-19 period. So there is a very sharp sudden rebound after the opening of borders. Okay. Opening of our releasing of the safety measures. Okay, that is a very sharp rebound. And this same goes with the key turning point during the 2020 period, 2021 period, where Singapore opened release of the safe measurement measures. Okay. But very key thing, what we're trying to emphasize again, you will see that the service and insurance industry, it seems that it's not impacted. Another one that is not impacted is the information and communication sector. These two are always not impacted. Okay, so this means that if I want to have an investment that will unlikely to face any economic turmoil or situation that can be affected by a pandemic, then probably I need to have position in the finance and insurance and information and communication sector. Okay, so this is some observation to highlight to you. So now we are in the period of 2011, 2025. You are coming to a tail, close to a tail end of 2025. I mean, a few more years, we are coming to 2025. So this is the period that Mr. Rafi has said there will be changes during this period. And why need to have these changes is so as to build a foundation, a foothold for the next two phases, the phase 4 and phase 5. That means to build for our future. So the plan for the future after 2025, in his opinion, is about phase 4, which period of 2026 to 2040, where we talk about regional integration and technology transformation. So may I start off with talking about regional integration first. Okay. So by 2040, what the vision is to make Singapore to become Asia's trading hub. We are already a very strong trading hub, but he thinks that in future, the economic gravity, okay, the economic gravity of the whole world will shift towards Asia. In what sense? He believed that the main economic gravity will be shifting towards China. Okay, remember this is a 2015 article. He didn't perceive, he see that by 2040, the 2026 to 2040 is going to gravitate towards China. And when we talk about not just China, why China is because of population is China is still doing okay lah. Because the rest of the world, the population issue is getting not as good. But China will still have a very strong population where the main workforce or the main producers will continue to be. And then the next workforce that has the strong population size is actually India itself. Okay, the second most populated area, I mean countries that has most people is, human resource is India itself. Okay, so China and India will be the main gravity shift. And when he talk about Southeast Asia region, he talk about Indonesia also. Okay, so Indonesia is up and coming economy or country that is within Southeast Asia that we should be looking towards itself. Okay, so as some of you all know, or for those who don't know, Indonesia is going to shift its capital from Jakarta to Kalimantan. If I'm not wrong, it should be Kalimantan. Okay, they are in the process of shifting. Why? Because there is a new plan in Indonesia, a future plan for Indonesia to really reconstruct its society and reconstruct its country economic situations. So once all this reconstruction is done or restructuring is done, that's where Indonesia can turn out to be a very strong economic gravity. Okay. So what does it mean for Singapore itself? Eventually, who will benefit? Which industry will benefit? The trade-related industry, which has been strong, will become stronger, okay, going forward. Why? Because this economic gravity will be shifting towards Asia. They will be the stronger consumer, okay, of where? Of the regional Asia region. So Singapore will surely still continue to benefit. So if I want to invest for the future, I will be looking at trade-related industry. Okay, that companies that deals with shipping, companies that deals with logistics, they will still be a strong foothold in Singapore economy. And the second part is about the technology development, okay, the technology transformation over time. Okay, so what Mr. Ravi Menon he has foresee is that between the period of 2020 to 2030, he's looking at population and convergence of several technology trends. Meaning, what are the technology that will be converging? Okay, so he believes that like digital mobile and services, like now we are in a period where 5G has happening and in future may have 6G and so on and so forth. You see there is a big transformation, especially in year 2010 onwards. You see a lot of reliance towards digital and mobile services. Like now you all are listening in Zoom. These are part of the mobile digital transformation of digital services. I used to conduct my seminars physically. Now no need. I can do it at the comfort of home and everybody can listen to my sharing at the comfort of home. These are transformation. And robotics has always been there, but what he's trying to say is that there will be a combination of robotics with other various technology. Okay, like for example, even now doing surgery, we can do remote surgery. So what the doctor, he may be in other countries, as long as the internet connection are strong, they can use the internet connection to control the robotic arm to do surgery in Singapore. Okay, that means the patient in Singapore, but the doctor can be in England or something. So that is what I mean by combination of a convergence of several technology trends. Biometrics, okay, biometrics, AI, I think no need explain much more. Artificial intelligence, it turned out to be, now we have ChatGPT and so on and so forth. AI is going to be, going forward, is going to be implemented in more and more things. Okay, even like now we want to invest in stock market, you can just get a robot to help you to decide what shares to buy and sell. That's the AI way. And then biometrics is like now if you want to travel overseas, you see that you just need to go through gantry, they check your iris, then they'll be able to identify whether you are the person. Don't need require to have one immigration officer over there. Okay, that's part of biometrics that combine together with AI to identify the person's facial feature to be a high level accuracy. Another area of biometrics that I also want to highlight is that he also had talked about biomedical portion. Okay, remember during 2015, COVID-19 haven't started, but when COVID-19 start to happen, okay, that's where a lot of biomedical firms start to actually heighten their research on biomedical area and so forth. So there's this one sub-sector in terms of the industry we can also think about is the biomedical related kind of industry that we can consider, okay, as a possible future thriving industry. So overall, what over here we can see from phase 4 is that we should be looking towards, if we want to invest for the future, the future thriving industry will be technology related industry. Like what we have seen earlier on, the information and communication sector has steadily been increasing, growing in Singapore over time. And not only that, if we talk about manufacturing industry, the subsector of manufacturing industry is the electronic sector, which the demand of electronics to produce such technology as the foundation or infrastructure for such technology the demand for electronic sector will still continue to be there, despite that recently the numbers of electronic manufacturing numbers have dropped. Okay, but they will still be the foundation going forward. So that is the phase 4. And also, part of the technology transformation by Mr. Ravi, what he shared is that by 2040, what he is looking at going forward more than technology that we know currently, he has one very interesting thing that he talked about, which really catch my attention. He talked about this ideas economy. He believed that by 2040, Singapore economy will be taking its roots towards what we call ideas economy. So, Jay, what do you mean by ideas economy, or what does Mr. Ravi mean by ideas economy? Let me simply share into these few areas for you to roughly understand. Now, ideas are services. Ideas are creativeness. It is not really a goods that we can produce by hand, but it can be produced through communicating. It can produce through giving people idea. So what is believed that will be taking root by 2040? Okay, here the keyword is by 2040, is ideas economy in terms of Singapore being a central hub to generate ideas in terms of marketing. Okay, like certain technology, like some of the movies we watch, like for example, Transformers, there are certain scenes in the Transformer movie, right? The scenes are edited or created. Okay, certain things are created by a team, a creative team in Singapore to create the animation itself. So meaning you no need to be physically present, okay, to create the movie. Everybody just play a part to develop certain portion to create a movie itself. So that is a new, what I call ideas economy. Okay, so in other words, like for example, if a company want to do a marketing campaign in, let's say, UK or European countries, then the European countries no need people from their own country to create a marketing campaign. What they have to do is that they put a request to Singapore side and say, hey, can you all design a marketing campaign? Can you create a video and so on and so forth? Why? Because Singapore could have all these kind of expertise where the country don't have. Create it, then transmit all these ideas or all this work that is being done back to the country itself. So this ideas economy, you'll see that it's going to be very powerful. Okay, even like our famous TikTok, the CEO is TikTok. The CEO of TikTok is actually Singaporean. Okay, and it's important to have some ideas, and that's why their officers, the ByteDance office is in Singapore and so on and so forth. So these are the development that is happening now. So in terms of designing, like Dyson also get attracted to come to Singapore to create their HQ. And the HQ is not manufacturing plant. It's not going to create more Dyson the hair dryer or Dyson vacuum cleaner. No, their HQ is planted in Singapore in order to develop and design, research and design new ideas going forward. So this is what I mean by ideas economy. Singapore are pushing towards producing ideas to sell to other countries or to gain a part of the overall big pie of the profits of certain companies and so on and so forth. Okay, so eventually, what I also want to have some position on is to see what are the companies that are related to such services. They will produce this kind of business services or even with R&D kind of function that can sell to other countries. Okay, I haven't identified any yet, but I believe in future, some may start to appear. When they start to appear, maybe we can try. So the last phase 5, I think this is nothing very new to a lot of people. A lot of us, we are really very concerned about climate change. Okay, so by 2041 to 2065, the focus will be about adaptation. Okay, we are now mitigating, we are in the midst of mitigating, but there will be adaptation. So what is expected by Mr. Ravi is that by 2055, the green industry will emerge to become the largest contributor of economy. Okay, so green industry can be towards a lot of areas like carbon trading, which also now at a very infancy stage. Renewable energy, you'll see that now a lot of our HDB flats, on top of it, companies came in to install solar energy panels. Okay. Now, do you all know what are the companies, listed company that help to install the solar panel? What I know of one of the company is Capital Corp. Okay. And I believe Sembcorp industry also has some involvement. Okay. So when talk about renewable energy, it will give you some ideas. Some companies that are being involved. Okay. What is more interesting is the three category that Mr. Ravi has shared. Number one, geoengineering. Geoengineering is like looking at the landscape, whether they can tap on the landscape to derive some renewable energy and so on and so forth. So one area like Singapore in particularly is that we are looking into the Sembawang hot spring, or even in Tekong, there's also a hot spring, whether they can build a geothermal plant over there. Okay, something like that. And energy consultancy. Okay, going forward with carbon trading and stuff, with more companies are being scrutinized for their carbon contribution, there is definitely a need for energy consultancy. Okay, so there are some listed companies that are starting to develop structures or infrastructures to be able to give energy consultancy. Okay, still very new, very green in this area. And then going forward, there will be new area called energy insurance. Not been known yet, but I think it should be something that coming up soon. Okay. Gary asked, can we have the playback of the webinar soon or any URL to view again? Answer, I'm sorry, don't have. Okay, because all these are one time off. Okay, if you want to listen again, maybe next week you can come and join my webinar session again. Okay, usually I'll repeat about the same thing, won't have much changes. Okay, thank you. So green industries, companies that related to green industry definitely will benefit. And disclaimer, I will definitely have some positions towards Capital Corp itself. I'm looking towards to have some position of my overall portfolio to prepare for such adaptation period. Okay. So in conclusion, Singapore's core industries, that I will be looking out for, and I believe that either it will be thriving right now or it will thrive in future, will be number one, the main core surely will still remain, will be the trade-related industries, finance and insurance, and construction. Although construction don't grow a lot, but they are going to be a very stable foothold over time. Okay, finance and insurance is among these three will be the best in my personal opinion, then followed by trade-related industry. And potential growing, possibly that is growing right now, are definitely the information and technology or information and communication industries. They actually will likely to continue to grow, because in future we are going towards the ideas economy. Ideas economy definitely needs this kind of information and technology foundation, communications foundation, in order to thrive. Okay, research and development, biomedical are also growing sector that will require in the future. Potential industry, ideas generating industry, not many right now, but as soon as you notice that it start to sprout some, do consider to take some risks in them. But green industry, there are more and more coverage towards it. More and more companies are restructuring their business towards green industry. For example, Capital Corp, Sembcorp industry, they are actually starting to shift their business model towards this area. So these are three general core industry that definitely I want to build my investment portfolio towards in this area. Okay, you can see that, oh, if I want to build a portfolio, I dissect into this industry, it shouldn't go too wrong. Okay, so eventually there's one big problem. Jay, in a share industry, all these are very general and generic. Yes, they are in fact really very general and generic. I can't share more into details because by sharing the foundation for you to understand, to see the idea of what are companies that are, what are industry that are thriving, it take me 1 hour plus really. Okay, so I'm afraid I don't have time to tell you what are the individual stock, although I share a few, but there are a lot more individual stock to invest in. But do you know that you can actually go and identify all these individual in stocks by yourself? No need to rely on Jay speaking, then later I forget how, and so on and so forth. The best way is that you derive and study the stock to pick out the stocks, individual stocks to invest in by yourself. And that's where my making investment course will come to help you to teach you how to find specific stocks to invest in, not just individual stocks, but how to build an overall portfolio and how to manage them. So within making investment course, I break it down into 3 parts, and each part has its specific purpose and function. In part 1, you're going to focus to learn how to select stock using fundamental. Like today, whatever I shared are part of the fundamental studies, is part of economic analysis. And through understanding economic analysis, it will give you a big spectrum, a broad spectrum or broad stroke on identifying what are the industries or what are companies that you can confidently hold over a long term. But to select and pick stocks for individual stocks for long term, you have to go to very specific to analyze the fundamentals of individual company. That's where I'm going to teach you how to identify and read the company financial statements like balance sheet, profit and loss, and also cash flow statement to determine the foundation or the fundamentals of company. And Singapore has so many different companies. So then how do we pick which one will be the best? That's where it requires us the knowledge of financial ratios, which is part of financial analysis. From there, we can filter down on very individual specific stock to determine whether is it worth the value to invest or not. So all these will be wrapped together using practical means. I have created a special stock selections template for you to step by step systematically go through to identify whether the stocks is attractive or not attractive. So eventually, you can use this to identify individual company to start investing in. So as part of IBL program, whatever you practice is going to be assessed. So rest be assured the assessment will be what you'll be practicing in. So the course will start on the 11th September and it will be breaking down in 3 parts in 2 weeks. So for part 1, it will be happening on 11 and 14 September, 6:15 p.m. to 10:15 p.m., Monday to Thursday evening over Zoom. And between part 1 and part 2, there will be a short number of days difference. And I believe that I want to help every individual to be very well versed and to practice what they learn. So therefore, I also give every participant an homework, an assignment, and also an e-learning module where they can go through, and there is a portion of quiz to help to refresh and also to reinforce what they have learned in this part 1 itself. So before part 2 starts, we'll have to go through the homework, and by going through homework, this will definitely build confidence in every individual that they can analyze the fundamentals of a particular company by themselves. So when that is done, that's where we can focus on part 2, where we learn how to time the stock market. Fundamental analysis has a big setback. It cannot tell you what's the best time to buy or sell in the market itself. That's where technical analysis has to come in. So you will learn how to identify a market trend, uptrend or downtrend, or identify how the support and resistance can help you determine where is the best place to what's the best price level to buy or even sell. To enhance the overall technical analysis reading, you need tools like candlestick, where you identify the candlestick momentum and also reversal pattern to help you to pinpoint the exact moment to decide when to enter or exit the market. And to enhance the overall reading, you definitely need technical indicators like moving average indicator to help you to further affirm your readings of the chart itself. So in a similar way, it's going to be a practical session where I'll have a chart evaluation template for you to go through step by step, and where you also do your assessment upon it. So this part 2 will happen on the week after, the next week on 18 and also 21st September, same timing 6:15 p.m. to 10:15 p.m. In similar fashion, a homework on technical analysis is going to be given, and also an e-learning portion of technical analysis is given between part 2 and part 3. So before part 3 start, we will go through the same thing, go through the homework, and to build confidence of every individual's technical analysis reading. Before we start to learn how to manage two things, manage your investment portfolio and also to manage your behavior or the emotions you have. So two main topics we will learn is behavioral finance. We will learn what are the behaviors that we have inbuilt with us that can cause us to make irrational investment decisions. Once we understand ourselves, then we'll be able to develop portfolio management techniques like how much shares to buy, how much money to set aside, how to monitor the shares, and at what point in time do we consider to sell our shares in terms of profit or even to cut loss. So this whole topic requires a full day momentum, meaning you'll be on the full day, 23rd September on a Saturday, 9 to 6 p.m. And there will be a finale case study, an assessment, also an assessment to help you to consolidate what you learn over these 3 parts into one. So making investment course is an IBF accredited course. After completing, you'll receive a certificate with your assessment pass. And since it's an IBF related course, like what Andy has been very excited to share with everyone, is that there will be grant, there will be subsidy up to 70%. If you're Singaporean above 40 years old, you'll be eligible to get a 70% grant. Eventually, you only need to pay $684, which then can be offset using a skill futures credit. And if you are an NTUC member, you can even have the NTUC UTEP funding. But if you are below 40 years old or Singaporean PR, you'll still be eligible for 50% grant, and you still can use your skill futures credit and UTEP funding to offset the course fee itself. Okay, so the QR code to sign up for this course is right at the top right corner. Later, Andy will share with you how to sign up for this making investment course. And I believe that many people who are listening right now are also the graduates of my making investment course. Thank you for always supporting me and always listening and upgrade yourself through listening to my talk for every session. So this year, I decided that it's a good year, it's a good time to encourage everybody to upskill themselves and to learn more. So therefore, I created these 3 courses to help you, 3 workshops per se, not courses, 3 workshops, a 2-hour workshop each, to help you to understand more about various topics within fundamental analysis and technical analysis. And it costs only $199. So one way to improve in your fundamental analysis is by understanding the intrinsic value of a company. Do you know that in the market, there are a lot of different intrinsic valuation models available, like the discounted cash flow model, the dividend growth model, Benjamin Graham model, or even the Warren Buffett model. So which one is the best? And how do we use them? This is where I'll talk about it in my 2 hours workshop that will happen on the 26th October and Thursday night, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. But if you prefer to want to trade, the next 2 workshops is going to help you. First one, I want to introduce the Riding the Ichimoku Cloud. Very interesting technical indicator that not many people in the market is teaching. I successfully understand the Ichimoku count indicator and use it to help me to identify not just the trend, price momentum, but also it can automatically help me to identify what are the good entry moments and also exit levels. So on the 9th November, I'm going to share to you how you can make use of this Ichimoku count to elevate your trading decisions. And lastly, recently, a few months ago, I managed to spot the market turning point. And how do I spot the market turning point? The best way is to use MACD indicator. MACD stands for Moving Average Convergence and Divergence. This indicator itself has many different usage. But the best usage for MACD, and is very commonly used by a lot of professionals in the market, is to help you to identify the market reversal point. It will give a good alert, a timely alert to tell you when is the market turning point. And from there, you'll be able to establish a more confident entry and exit levels. So this will happen on the 23rd November, Thursday also, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. So these are the three courses that will be coming on the fourth quarter of this year. And rest be assured, I carefully crafted these three workshops to help every individual, not just those who attended making investment class, but also to everyone who are well equipped with the knowledge of how to build, how to do your fundamentals and also technical analysis. But to elevate the performance of how you make your investment work, these three workshops is going to definitely help to elevate your knowledge. So I certainly do want to encourage everybody to sign up for either the foundation of making investment course or to elevate your knowledge towards these three workshops. Or even if you think that, hey, Jay, I don't want to commit so much within the making investment course, you may want to try out this 2-hour workshop as a start to see the stuff I'm teaching and also to understand how do I make use of such things to make my investment work for me. And to encourage everyone to sign up for any of these courses, I'm going to offer a bonus for those who are signed up. The bonus is you get a free 1-to-1 private coaching. As long as you sign up for any of the course run under chia, you're going to receive this 1-to-1 private coaching. So after the course, I will definitely contact you. I'll make arrangement with you to learn or to discuss about what you learn 1-to-1. Okay, so that I can understand your situation, so that I can understand your question. And then from there, it will definitely help you to understand how to make investment work for you. So before I invite Andy in to explain to you how to sign up for course and how to get the grant for making investment course, I strongly encourage everyone to think about not just about spending this amount of money to sign up for course, but think about the future vision that you can have, not just for yourself, or maybe you can pass down to your children. The vision of how to make the investment work for you. For such a small sum with subsidy or even the 2-hour workshop of 109 only, it's going to be a worth investment for a lifetime. It's not a one-time thing. So I do strongly urge everybody to consider to sign up either of these available course or workshop so that I can have the opportunity to share much more into detail on how I can train you to be a better investor over time. So with this, I thank you for your time, and I hope that everybody will know how to make investment work for you. Thank you. Andy, please.
Oh, hi. Yes, Jay can see me and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Jay. Wealth manager from this Philips Security as well as IPF Graded Trainer. Yes, indeed. what I will just share with you here in the opening speech, right? I want all of you to stay to the end of the session because your lot of goodies will come in place. I think Jay already shared with you his very personal private coaching session. Now, let me just share with all of you here. Private coaching session is not many trainer provided in the market. So I think a wealth manager, Jay, who already taken on his personal time. Now, as a wealth manager, he's a busy individual who are helping his client to allocate, their portfolio as what he's doing day in, day out right now, right? Therefore, the time to him is very precious. So in fact, you're joining, excuse me, if you're joining for this for the 5-day session of the Making Investment Work, the IBF course, or even the modular workshop, the 2-hour session, whether it's finding the intrinsic value of the company, writing the Ichimoku crowd indicator, or using the MACD to spot the market turning points, it will be still provide you this personal private coaching session. So this is very hard to come by. So I think I'm strongly urge all of you to take this opportunity to grab it. So I think to sign up either from the modular workshop or even for the MIW, the IBF course, please just refer to the chat. I think I have been sent about a couple of the hyperlink over there. So there are 2 separate hyperlink. This modular workshop hyperlink as well as the IBF MIW course, this hyperlink. Now, importantly, one more important thing I would like to just share with you here, like what I just mentioned. I want all you to stay to the end of session because talking about the skill future credit. Now, skill future credit is the the account given provided to the Singapore citizen age 35 years and above. So you are any age from 35 years and above for Singapore citizen, you are given an account called Skill Future Credit Account. Another good piece of news is our Making Investment Work course, after the 50% IBF subsidy or after 70% of the IBF funding support, you can use your Skill Future credit to fund for it. So at the end of the day, you need not to come up your personal bank account or your personal from the wallet to pay for the fee of the 30% or even the 50%. That is the reason why I was mentioned all of you, please stay till the end of session. Now, of course, as I said, those also view from Facebook Live, we also, my colleague Spec also send a course registration link over. You can just register the course via the link, right? Now, importantly, I want to run through with all of you here to, especially using the step of using the Skill Future credit. And which is very true, quite a lot of us, could be, I think, quite a majority of us that we are not aware of the Skill Future credit. It is also set by the government. There is also an expiry date set. So if you don't use it by a certain period of time, this Skill Future credit will be expired, and then it will be taken back by the Skill Future Singapore. So therefore, we very, very strong all of you here. I think especially if you have any friends who have not start, I mean, a Singaporean friend have not start to use the Skill Future credit and happen to be they are looking for some investment course, financial investment course to learn from, then this Skill Future credit is just come in the right time for them to pay for it, right? So let me just do my share screen, and of course, and at the same time to run through all you on the steps. Just give me a while because I need to share screen to showcase. I go to sign in on personal Skill Future credit account. I need to run through with all you here how you can actually use the Skill Future credit to make payment. Okay, let me just check whether the screen has been shared, right? Just to ensure. Okay, cool, has been shared. Now, this is a slide earlier on you see, earlier on similar to what you see from Jay's slide. But of course, like I said, I want to run through with you using the Skill Future credit, which is personally, I'm going to use my personal Skill Future credit account. Let me just go to the registration link. Now, over here, you see the earlier one about 8:41 p.m. I sent the link. That one is for the MIW course, the IBF course. So for those who want to sign up for the modular workshop, right? Like what Jay mentioned, if you don't want to join in the 4-day or 5-day session, then you can actually select the second hyperlink. Okay, when you click on the second hyperlink, you will come up 3 different courses, and then you can select accordingly. Now let me just start with the MIW course, because this is the course come with the Skill Future credit that you can use your Skill Future credit to fund for it. Just give me a minute. I need to click on that. Okay, so when I click on the link, of course, MIW course, you can use Skill Future credit. For those who sign up for the modular workshop, the 2-hour workshop, then you got to use your personal account to pay for it, which is I think with the GST it should be $215. It's still a very, very manageable cost fee, right? I'll go through with you again after I run through this MRW class, right? The restoration using the SkillsFuture credit. Now, how to come to this page? So this page basically is okay, this course is conducted via online. So therefore, you need to ensure you have a PC, you have a PC webcam to join for the class, okay? So click on the link, you'll come to this called MIW course registration form. MIW is a acronym making investment work, right? Now you click on the selection of course date. So it's only one course date available this month. As you can see, the course setting is online and then it's spread for 5 days. So of the first 4 days, the first 4 dates, 11, 14, 18, 21st, right? This is happening on weekday evening, which is on Monday evening to Thursday evening. So 11 and 18 is Monday evening, 14 and 21st September is a Thursday evening, and then followed by one full day on the 23rd September, that's on Saturday, and timing start from 9 a.m. and end around 6 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay, so this is the online course setting, right? So this is the only date that we have. Select this, and then you see there is quite a number of the information you got to fill up, right? So over here, there is show you the detailed applicant, and then you can see bracket with the asterisk. So those who are bracket with the asterisk, you know, with the star, make sure that you fill up, right? And then select under the self-paying participant and would like to make the course payment before course commencement. So which means when you do the restoration successfully, make sure you also make the course fee payment so as for us to prepare the training material, the necessary arrangement to be sent out to the course participant, the course sign-up participant. So the full course fee before GST is 1,008. You saw it here, 1,188, 1,008. With the 8% GST, will come out to 1,944, right? So if as you are a citizen below 40 years old or PR for all ages, but minimally be 18 years and above, then you'll be eligible under the IBF Enhanced Funding Support 50%. And then the remaining cost fee is 1,044, 1,044, inclusive of GST. Okay. Now, if you're citizen age 40 years and above,